Listen to me very carefully, because what I'm about to tell you will shatter everything you've ever believed about fear. Fear is not real. It's a program, a code, installed into your mind by people who are too afraid to chase their own dreams. Fear is the weapon that kills more dreams than failure ever could, and if you don't rip it out of your mind right now, it will bury everything you were born to become. But today, we break that chain. Today, you learn how to burn fear to the ground and walk out of that prison you've been living in forever. This is not motivation. This is a wake-up call from the universe itself. If this is hitting you in the chest right now, if something inside you is waking up, like this video and subscribe to this channel, because what I'm about to unleash next will transform your reality forever. Let's destroy fear for good. Let's begin. Fear is a mental virus, not a truth. It infects your thinking, not your reality. It is not something you touch, not something you see, but something you believe, and that belief shapes your entire destiny. It's a code planted in your system by repetition, trauma, and the words of small, scared minds. And the most dangerous part? You believed it was your own. Fear disguises itself as logic, wisdom, caution. It pretends to protect you while quietly enslaving you. It shows up as hesitation, as doubt, as procrastination. But its only mission is to kill your evolution. It wants you safe, small, and silent. But the truth is, safety is the most dangerous place you can live in. Safety is where your dreams go to die. This virus called fear doesn't wait for your permission. It slips into your thoughts without knocking, whispers lies into your intuition, and convinces you that worst-case scenarios are prophecies. It turns your power into paralysis. It hijacks your ability to take risks, to love fully, to speak boldly. You weren't born with fear, you were programmed with it. And what's programmed can be reprogrammed. You accepted fear as reality because someone else was afraid to face their own. You inherited their chains and called it personality. But this was never yours to carry. Every time you say, I'm not ready, fear just won. Every time you say, what if I fail? Fear just got stronger. Every time you make decisions to avoid judgment, pain, or embarrassment, fear is sitting in the driver's seat. And you, the powerful, infinite, limitless creator, are riding in the back, like a prisoner. Fear is not some guardian, it is a thief. It has stolen years from your life, opportunities you didn't even see, love you never gave, conversations you never started, dreams you buried alive, because fear told you, not now. Not you, not enough. Lies. Every last one of them. You were not put on this planet to survive, you were put here to dominate, to expand, to evolve. But fear wants you quiet, ordinary, digestible. It wants you to trade your greatness for comfort, your fire for predictability, your roar for a whisper. And the worst part is, it doesn't have to overpower you to win. It just has to distract you long enough to miss your moment. You don't need fear to stay alive. You need purpose. You need hunger. You need the absolute refusal to die with your potential still inside you. Fear isn't just a feeling, it's a strategy, a blueprint for self-destruction dressed up as protection. The more intelligent you are, the more convincing fear becomes. It knows your weaknesses. It mimics your voice. It tells you to wait until it's perfect, until it's safe, until the stars align. But those stars will never align for the person who refuses to move. Fear will have you preparing forever and launching never. It will have you rehearsing your life instead of living it. And the longer you entertain it, the more it becomes your identity. The greatest illusion fear ever created was the belief that it was necessary. It's not. Courage does not come from the absence of fear. It comes from the rejection of it. You will never feel fully ready. You will never be fully certain, but you must act anyway. Because the moment you decide, fear doesn't get to choose for you. That's the moment everything changes. You stop asking for permission. You stop negotiating with your destiny. You start moving like the warrior you were born to be. Fear feeds on your focus. Starve it. Refuse to give it your attention. You have trained yourself to imagine worst-case scenarios so well that you forgot how to visualize freedom, power, and triumph. Flip the script. Train your mind to see breakthrough. Train your heart to crave risk. Train your soul to run toward the fire, not away from it. The person you are becoming is on the other side of everything you've been avoiding. And that version of you, they don't shake, they don't stall, they don't bow to fear, they use it. They take its energy and turn it into fuel. They step into rooms where they don't feel ready and own it anyway. Fear is a parasite, but you are the host. It lives because you allow it. It grows because you water it with your thoughts. The moment you stop believing its lies, it dies. This is not about being fearless, it's about being forever ferocious. It's about being so driven by vision that fear becomes irrelevant. It's about waking up every single day with fire in your chest and saying, I will not be ruled by ghosts. It's about understanding that fear is the enemy of your legacy, and you have a legacy to build. The world doesn't need more people playing small. The world doesn't need more silence. It needs more leaders who walk through fear like it was smoke. More warriors who feel the resistance and rise anyway. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be ready. You just need to be done with living in fear. Because once you realize fear was never real, you will become unstoppable, and the world won't even recognize the version of you that rises next. You were taught to fear. Now you must unlearn it. Fear was not born in you. It was built around you. From your first breath, they begin shaping your mind. Don't climb too high. Don't speak too loud. Don't dream too big. You were conditioned to shrink before you even learned how to stand. They called it safety. They called it being realistic, but all they were really doing was transferring their limitations into your system. You weren't afraid of judgment until someone else taught you to care what people think. You weren't afraid to fail until someone shamed you for not being perfect. You weren't afraid to take up space until someone told you that you were too much. The fear in you is secondhand, inherited, learned. And anything learned can be unlearned. You didn't question it because it came from the people you trusted, the people who raised you, taught you, protected you. But protection can become a prison when it stops you from becoming. They didn't mean to clip your wings, but they did because they forgot they had wings too. Their fear became your operating system. And now, years later, you're still running on outdated code. You're making choices based on fears that don't even belong to you. You're second-guessing your greatness because someone else couldn't handle theirs. And here's the raw truth. They were wrong. Every single one of them. They were wrong about your limits, wrong about your value, wrong about what's possible for you. You see, fear is passed down like a family heirloom, not through genetics, but through repetition. Every time you heard, be careful, every time you saw someone play it safe, every time you were punished for taking a risk, that fear sunk deeper into your bones. And you internalized it, not as a warning, but as an identity. You started believing that fear meant wisdom, that hesitation meant intelligence, that playing small was noble. But none of that is real. It's just noise in your head made louder by years of silence in your soul. And now it's your responsibility to strip it out, thread by thread, and rewire your mind for truth. The system taught you to obey before it taught you to think. It trained you to follow rules that no longer serve you. School never taught you how to conquer your mind. Society never taught you how to shatter fear. They taught you how to survive, not how to rise. They taught you how to blend in, not how to lead. They rewarded your obedience, not your bravery. And so you adapted, you kept your voice low, your ideas hidden, your ambition caged. But that version of you, that's not the real you. That's the version fear built, and it's time to burn it down. You weren't born to fit in, you were born to disrupt, to shake the system that trained you to be scared of your own power. But that system doesn't own you anymore. You've outgrown it. And the only reason fear still shows up is because it knows you're about to rise beyond everything it can control. You don't need to be fearless. You need to be free. Free from the lies you were told, free from the fears you absorbed, free from the patterns you didn't choose. You were not broken, you were buried under layers of fear that never belonged to you in the first place. Start questioning everything they told you. Why do you hesitate when you speak? Who told you your voice didn't matter? Why do you fear success as much as failure? Who made you feel unworthy of winning? These are not coincidences. These are codes planted in your subconscious to keep you tame. But lions don't fear their own roar, and neither should you. You've been silent for too long. You've been calculating, doubting, analyzing every move like you're walking on thin ice. But the truth is, you're the fire, you're the storm. You're the force they try to control because they feared what would happen if you remembered who you really are. Because if any of you, unlearning fear means doing the exact opposite of what the world trained you to do. It means saying what you're afraid to say, doing what you're afraid to do, going where fear told you not to go, because that's where your power is hidden, on the other side of what you were conditioned to avoid. You don't grow by obeying fear. You grow by confronting it, by looking it in the face and saying, not anymore. Because every time you choose courage over comfort, you reclaim another piece of your true self. No one is coming to rescue you from your fear. That's your job. The fear they gave you, you now have the power to reject it. You are not here to repeat their story. You are here to rewrite it. You are not here to inherit their fear. You are here to break it. This is your revolution. Internal, relentless, unstoppable. The fear in your mind may have been taught, but the freedom in your soul is original, untouched, waiting. And when you start unlearning fear, line by line, belief by belief, you don't just change your life, you change your bloodline. Fear only survives in the absence of action. It feeds on delay, multiplies in hesitation, and thrives in the silence between your thoughts and your movements. Fear does not need proof, it only needs your pause. The longer you wait, the louder it becomes. The more you think, the deeper it roots itself. Action is fear's cure, its enemy, its executioner. Every second you stay still, fear gains ground. But the moment you move, the spell breaks. The illusion collapses. Because fear is not strong, it's sneaky. It doesn't overpower you. It convinces you to stand still while it builds walls in your mind. And you don't even realize you're trapped because you called it overthinking. Fear will dress itself up as caution, disguise itself as intelligence, pretend it's protecting you from danger. But the real danger is in doing nothing. The real risk is in waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect mindset. Perfection is fear in a costume. Delay is fear with makeup on. Overplanning is fear pretending to be preparation. But fear doesn't need to look scary to destroy you. It only needs you to stay frozen. Because as long as you're not moving, you're not growing, you're not building, you're not living. And fear gets exactly what it wants: control. Every dream that died in the absence of action. Every opportunity you missed didn't slip away. It was held hostage by fear while you were waiting to feel ready. But you will never feel ready. That's the lie fear whispers. Every time you're on the edge of greatness, it says, wait a little longer. Think about it more. What if you fail? And if you listen, you stay stuck. You stay locked in a prison that only exists in your mind. And the longer you stay in that prison, the more it feels like home. Fear is not your home. It's your warning. It's the flashing sign that says, go anyway. You kill fear the second you take the first step. Not when you finish, not when it's perfect, not when you're confident. The first step is the bullet. The first move is the break. Because fear has no defense against action. It has no strategy to defeat momentum. You don't overcome fear by thinking differently. You overcome fear by doing anyway. Action rewrites your beliefs. Action smashes the illusion. Action is truth in motion. And the people who win in life, they move, they decide, they leap. Even if they don't feel ready, even if they're scared, even if they might fall, they move. Fear dies in movement. It cannot survive in energy. It cannot hold on when your mind is made up. But if you hesitate, it grabs you. If you pause, it infects you. If you freeze, it wins. You don't need courage to move. You build courage by moving. You don't need clarity to act. Clarity comes from action. Waiting is fear's weapon. Movement is your power. When you act in spite of fear, you become immune to it. You rewire your brain to respond with force instead of freeze. You train your body to move toward discomfort, not away from it. And suddenly, fear isn't a wall, it's fuel. Every fear is waiting for your hesitation. Every doubt is waiting for your silence. But you weren't born to stand still. You were built to break through. You were designed to evolve through pressure. The obstacle is not the problem. Your inaction is. The fear is not the enemy. Your delay is. And you don't need more time, more knowledge, more preparation. You need a decision. You need the moment where you say, I'm doing this now. And once you do, the power shifts. Because fear has no control over someone who refuses to wait. Think about everything fear has cost you, every risk you didn't take, every move you avoided, every goal you postponed. That is the price of inaction, not failure, not rejection, inaction. That's what buries the most powerful people on this planet. Not what they did, but what they did. Not the mistakes they made, but the chances they never took. And you have to ask yourself, how much longer are you willing to pay that price? Fear has no voice when you're in motion. It only echoes in stillness. It grows in the gap between the life you want and the actions you're avoiding. It multiplies in the spaces where you hold back. But you weren't meant to hold back. You weren't made to play safe. You were made to break patterns, to move first, to speak loud, to act with fire. The version of you that walks into power is not the one who waited. It's the one who moved in the middle of chaos. The one who ran toward the resistance, the one who acted before fear could speak. You are not trapped by fear. You are trapped by inaction. And the moment you move, everything begins to shift, not because fear disappears, but because you stopped obeying it, because you stopped giving it power through delay, because you finally decided that the pain of staying stuck is worse than the pain of stepping forward. Action is the revolution. Movement is the rebellion. And if you want to destroy fear forever, don't wait. Don't think, don't hesitate, just move. Your imagination creates fear, use it to create freedom. The most powerful weapon in your mind is the same one being used to keep you stuck. Your imagination is not broken, it's being hijacked. You've been using it against yourself. You've rehearsed disaster so many times that your mind believes it's reality. You've visualized failure, embarrassment, rejection, until those images became more vivid than your potential. You've created entire worlds where nothing works out, where everyone laughs, where you lose everything, and you've done it with absolute precision. That is proof of your power. Because to build fear that strong, that detailed, that convincing, you must be powerful beyond belief. Fear is a product of imagination twisted in the wrong direction. It's the creative force in you turned inward like a weapon. You don't fear because something is happening. You fear because you've imagined what might happen. You've built stories that haven't occurred, played scenes that hasn't arrived. You've used the most divine gift you have, the power to envision the future, and filled it with everything you don't want. And the more vividly you imagine the worst, the more your body believes it's real. Your heart races, your breath shortens, your muscles tighten, all because your mind can't tell the difference between thought and experience. But the same imagination that builds fear can build your freedom. The same mind that created the nightmare can create the vision. If you can picture everything going wrong, then you can just as vividly picture everything going right. If you can visualize rejection, you can visualize applause. If you can see yourself falling, you can see yourself flying. It's not a question of ability, it's a question of direction. You are already a master of mental movies. Now it's time to change the script. You're not waiting to become powerful. You're just remembering that you already are. The problem is not your fear. The problem is that you've been letting your imagination be guided by your wounds. Your past has been directing your future because you keep replaying it in your head. You've confused your memory with your destiny. But memory is not truth, it's a lens, a distorted replay of pain that convinces you to expect more of the same. That cycle ends the moment you reclaim control of the pictures in your mind. You must become the director of your own inner cinema. You must demand that your imagination works for you, not against you. The mind is obedient. It follows what you feed it. If you continue to nourish it with fear, with worst-case scenarios, with limitations, it will reflect exactly what you gave it. But if you train it to see power, success, confidence, breakthrough, it will build that too. It's not about pretending problems don't exist. It's about choosing which future you want to energize. Imagination is the soil of your becoming. What you plant, you will grow. What you repeat, you will live. What you see inside, you will meet outside. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you mentally rehearse. Every time fear speaks, it is asking you to visualize, to see the fall before the leap, to see the loss before the gain, to see the pain before the experience. And you obey without realizing it. You start seeing it in detail. You feel it. And that energy manifests hesitation. That hesitation creates inaction. That inaction becomes your reality, not because it had to happen, but because you built it. The future didn't scare you. You scared yourself with the future you imagined. And that is your power, because if you're the one building it, you're the one who can tear it down and build something greater. When you were a child, you used imagination to explore, to dream, to become anything. Fear wasn't there to block your vision. Somewhere along the line, you started using that same gift to predict your own failure. But the tool never changed. You just stopped using it with purpose. You stopped using it with faith. You stopped using it to elevate. You let fear narrate instead of vision. But now it's time to take the pen back. It's time to write new scenes. Scenes where you walk into rooms with confidence, where you speak and the world listens, where your ideas become impact, where you chase the life that's been waiting for you to finally believe it's yours. The imagination is sacred. It's where your future is born before the world ever sees it. It's where leaders are built, where empires begin, where greatness is formed in silence. Don't contaminate it with fear. Don't waste it painting nightmares. Use it to design the reality your soul came here to create. Use it to rehearse your next level. Use it to become so familiar with success that fear becomes confused. Use it so often that doubt can't find space. Flood your mind with images of power, of certainty, of movement. Train your system to expect nothing less than transformation. You're not waiting on a sign. You're not waiting on luck. You're not waiting to be chosen. You've had the tool all along. Your imagination is not just a mental playground. It's a spiritual weapon. What you picture, you move toward. What you expect, you invite. What you obsess over, you build. Let fear starve from neglect while you flood your vision with purpose. The world outside will always reflect the world inside, so make the inner world unstoppable. You were not born to bow to fear, you were born to rise through it. The pain you run from is the very fire that can set you free. Fear is not a stop sign, it is a signal. It shows you exactly where your power is trapped. Every time you feel afraid, that's the doorway to the next level of your evolution. But most people see fear and retreat. They feel it and shut down. They hear the voice and they obey it like a law. But fear is not law, fear is a liar. And it only wins when you believe it means stop. It doesn't. It means go here. The fear you feel is proof that you're on the edge of something that matters. You don't feel fear when you're settling. You don't feel fear when you're hiding. You feel fear when something inside you knows you're about to grow beyond what you've ever been. That edge, the sharpness in your chest, the shake in your hands, the doubt in your mind, that's not weakness. That's the threshold. That's the moment most people run from. And it's the exact moment you must run toward. Because what looks like fear is often just untapped potential screaming to be released. You've been taught to avoid fear like it's danger. But the real danger is staying the same. The real risk is ignoring the discomfort that leads to your power. Fear will dress itself up in logic. It will sound like a voice that cares. This isn't the right time. What if it goes wrong? You're not ready yet. It will speak in calm tones while it buries your calling. And if you don't challenge that voice, it becomes your compass. But a life driven by fear is a life of regret. And regret is a fire that never stops burning. Fear is not something to remove. It's something to ride. You don't need to wait for it to disappear. You need to move through it while it screams. Because every time you choose action in the presence of fear, you weaken its grip. It loses credibility, it loses power, you stop trusting it, and eventually it becomes background noise. Still there, but irrelevant. Still talking, but no longer deciding. That's when you know you've shifted, not when fear vanishes, but when it no longer leads. When you walk toward fear, you flip the power dynamic. You become the one who chooses, the one who moves forward even with shaking hands, the one who feels the weight and keeps going anyway. That is where transformation lives. Not in comfort, not in ease, but in the heat of the decision that makes your heart race. That choice, the one that feels like too much, is the exact one that changes your life forever. Avoiding fear makes it grow. Facing fear makes you grow. Every time you avoid what scares you, you give it authority. You feed it belief. You teach your nervous system that fear equals danger, when most of the time, it only means unfamiliar. And the unknown is not your enemy. The unknown is your invitation. It's the field where all your growth waits. It's the space where you meet the version of you that's been buried beneath your hesitation. When you go straight into what scares you, you discover that fear was smoke, not fire. It looked like a monster, but it was only made of your imagination. It felt like death, but it was rebirth. You will never meet your highest self while hiding from the thing you're afraid of. That meeting only happens at the edge. That version of you only appears when you walk straight through the fear instead of around it. Fear is a gate. Most stop at the gate, few walk through, but the few who do, they never go back to who they were. You don't break fear by thinking differently. You break fear by moving where you're scared to move. You speak when your voice shakes. You leap while your mind screams, wait. You do what your fear says you can't. That's not reckless. That's necessary. That's the moment you reclaim your identity, not as a prisoner of fear, but as its master. Because once you know fear can't stop you, nothing else can either. And most people live under the illusion that fear is a wall. But it's not a wall, it's a mirror. It shows you the limits of your current self. It reveals where you still believe you are not enough. And the only way to break that mirror is to walk through your reflection. Not to run from it, not to fix it, but to move through it. That movement shatters everything fear told you about yourself. It erases the old identity and it installs a new one, the identity of someone who moves, no matter what. You don't need a guarantee to move. You don't need a plan to begin. You don't need certainty to commit. You need one thing, your decision to face what scares you more than you obey it. That decision rearranges that moment alters everything, because fear is the lock, but you are the key. And the door only opens when you stop waiting to feel brave and start acting like you already are. If this truth hit deep, hit that like button and subscribe right now, because you deserve to surround yourself with people who elevate you.